Hi, this is Tony English again. Today I want to talk about the existent proof and evidence for the existence of God based on the fine tuning of the universe. You don't have to be a scientist or a mathematician to understand this, but what I want to do is I want to start when I was 14, 15 years old, smoking pot with my friends. I came up with this theory one time when we were sitting around philosophizing about reality. And I said, what if there's a million, trillion, jillion, and infinite number of universes out there, and there's another one that's just like us, but slightly one different thing, and it went on like an infinite number, and it sounded like a silly theory. Um, but believe it or not, the science has forced the scientists who are materialistic to actually believe that. And I'll get into a why in a second. So, one of the things that people say, well, why doesn't God prove that he exists? Why isn't he out there, sticking his face through the sky and saying, hey, I exist? Well, I think if you look at creation, the evidence is overwhelming if you look at it from a unbiased point of view. If you look at the DNA and the beauty and the design and the fine tuning, and that's what I want to get to now. There's fine tuning of the earth. There's so many features of the earth that make it habitable that is very, very rare, even given billions of other earths in the universe probably. But the chances of all those things lining up just for the earth, that's a whole nother podcast, another discussion. But what I want to talk about is the fine tuning of the universe. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe expanded from an infinitely small point, which makes me laugh every time because that's basically saying it came out of nothing. But scientists call it an infinitely small point, and because they don't know what's beyond that, they can't figure it out. But keep in mind, space, time, energy, and matter all had a beginning. But what happened in the 20th century, 21st century, they got supercomputers, and they were able to put in all the laws of nature with the constants and variables, like the expansion rate of the universe and the measurement for gravity and the ratio between matter and antimatter. And there's dozens of these laws of nature that are very specific. They're simple, but they have variables and quantities built in that we figured out. But what they did was they started tweaking with using a supercomputer. They started trying to figure out what if the variable changed by a little bit. And every time they changed it at all, the expanding universe would either collapse on itself, expand too fast, there'd be no matter, there would be no elements, there would be, or very simple, just hydrogen and helium, and that was it. Or whatever they did to the laws of nature, everything would collapse. It wouldn't work. But what's amazing is the amount they had to change it, the amount that was allowed to change was so minuscule. So it's like the number of seconds since the beginning of the universe, 13.8 billion years ago, is 10 to the 20. Okay? The number of particles, not molecules or atoms, but particles in the universe is estimated to be 10 to the 78. But each of these fine-tuning formulas, if they were changed, one was like 10 to the 60, one was 10 to the 120, one was 10 to the 10 to the 120. So if they change it by that much, the universe would not have existed to support life. So this brought up a problem for materialistic science, which I love science because I think it, in the old days they would build these cathedrals, to show how great God is. But science really is building the cathedral of the greatness of God, because the more we understand, the more we learn about DNA and about evolution and about the universe and astrophysics. It's just more and more radical cathedral, and it's a worship of God. Even looking at studying animals and what they do and the features that they've developed to survive, unbelievable evidence for a design. But that being said, the astrophysicists have a problem because they have it's materialistic science, which they need to do that. They can't just say, oh, that's probably a miracle. They have to look at what caused what. So I don't blame them for that. But When you look at the fine tuning, there's only three options for that. One is chance, which we just talked about. One is necessary, meaning that it could not have been any different. It had to be the way it was. That doesn't make any sense, because if it was necessary, that would mean that everything had to be exactly like it is logically, which is not. I mean, we could have one less crow in the world. That changes the necessity part off the table. So it's not necessary. And then there's only one other option, that's called design, that someone messed with the calculations. And a lot of the top scientists admit that. There's Hawking said it appears that someone designed it. Hoyle and a lot of these scientists, when they first learned about realized the ramifications of the fine tuning, that they realized it has to be an explanation, either God or something else. Well, guess what? The something else was what I developed when I was a 15-year-old smoking pot. They really, really believe that there's an infinite number of universes, and that reduces the probabilistic problem, the chance problem. Because if you have an infinite number, then one of the universes are going to be that way by chance, and then they call it the anthropic principle, where that the only reason you look like it's designed is because you happen to exist, because you don't exist in the other universes. So this is their argument, believe it or not. It takes a lot of faith to believe that, and then also you need a mechanism that would produce this infinite number of universes. And that mechanism had to be really fine-tuned to be able to do that. So the fine-tuning doesn't go away by postulating an infinite number or a jillion trillion universes. So chance is off the table, but it's an amazing leap that these supposedly smart scientists have made, because they just cannot afford to admit that it looks designed. Now, I have a question. If you were God and you wanted to design into the universe something that proved your existence, what options would you have? You could put on every molecule, made by God, patent number 1 or something, and every time they looked at it from a microscope, they could say, oh, it says made by God here. But then they would just say, well, that's just a chance event. And the chances of that are super low compared to the fine-tuning. So I think that what God did with this fine-tuning is 100% mathematical proof that there's a designer. I don't think there's any way around it. And also, I can prove that just with a thought experiment that the universe is not infinite, because statistics works. If there was an infinite number of universes, that means the number of rare chance events, which the fine-tuning would be equal to the number of common events. So it is actually technically possible for, by random combination, the molecules to create a chimpanzee would just randomly hit at once. It was very, very low chance, but it could happen by just chance, right? So chimpanzees popping into existence would be just as common as chimpanzees being born and evolving, or whatever the story is there. So that proves right there that there is not an infinite number of universes, because statistics works. The other thing is, the universe is so huge. The chances of us being in this huge universe compared to all the little miniature ones that could have existed shows that we're just not in that realm. The other thing is, an actual infinite is logically impossible. People argue about this at the higher level, but whenever you have an actual infinite of something, all the mathematics breaks down. It doesn't work. If you have an actual infinite as a result of a mathematical equation, that means that there's something wrong with the equation, because you can't have it. It's impossible to have an infinite, because let's say you're driving an infinite distance and it says Las Vegas, infinite miles. How long will it take you to get there? You never get there, because it's infinite number of miles. Like, if the universe existed forever, we would never be here, because whether you break it down by second, hour, day, there's an infinite number of them, and we'd never make it here. So this is the problem with the whole idea of there being an infinite number of universes. So that being said, go look up the fine tuning. You'll see in Wikipedia they try and explain it away. Everybody's trying to come up with an answer to that, but really it's very simple. And God gave you a mind to think clearly. So look at the evidence and decide for yourself. But God did prove that He exists, and there's no avoiding it. So have a great day. I'll see you on the next one.